You've spoken there about kind of putting them in a record, and I know the archive at UCT is a wealth of historical material. We've got some photographs from you, there's some video material from 1976 and some subsequent documentaries. Does that archive reflect the Western Cape more broadly and other places of activity at, say, what became CPUT, the University of the Western Cape, and also, as I understand it, Worcester and Wellington were also places where there was a lot of student activity around the same time as 76?
One of my speakers, a gentleman called Lenny Gentle, who became a huge, big name in the union within the Western Cape, was a student at UCT at the time. And my initial conversations with him, he indicated that as much as he was a student at UCT, but his politics were not at UCT. His politics were in the community. So in terms of exactly these areas that you're talking about, he used to go in those areas, Wellington, Worcester, and all those areas, because to him, that's where his passion was. And hence, after he graduated from UCT, instead of using his degree to amass a lot of wealth for himself, he went into the union and worked as a unionist until sort of he retired. And so it's a very touching story of people that were at UCT at the time, but were not involved in the student politics.
And that's where you can see the institution of UCT of that day did support the racial policies of the state.
Exactly.
The same thing with a colored med student not being able to touch a white cadaver.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. So those are the issues that I'm hoping that on this day we could sort of highlight, not in a way of making people feel guilty, but in a way of saying this is where we were, this is what was happening at the time, this is now where we were now, where we are right now. How do we make sure that moving forward, we move forward together as a nation, we move together as one human race, we move together as a people that is striving towards a better South Africa for all of us together.
Yeah, I suppose one of the questions that immediately comes up hearing that is the question of protest and demonstration amongst your student body at UCT, and the kind of fervor and sort of passion of the young people there who are still, I believe, by their own definition, fighting for the same values and principles that were embodied in the protest of 76. How are you going to accommodate that in your celebrations? Are you going to welcome them in? Do they want to join? How are you going to negotiate that?
Well, at a formal level, part of the panel will be represented by the current SRC. But at an informal level, we have invited student leadership from all the student leaders. So the invitation has gone to the Department of Student Affairs to say, can we invite all the student leaders so that they can be part and parcel of the broader discussion of what is happening there. And the reason for me to invite them to be part and parcel of the discussion is so that they can see that this is not something new, but how did the struggle back in 76, how these leaders back then were able to involve not only students, but we're able to get buy-in from the community. We're able to get buy-in from the teachers. We're able to get buy-in from the workers. So how did they manage to do that and keep that momentum going? So I do think that there needs to be a critical engagement and dialogue happening, and hence we have invited the leadership of the student body in the different faculties, in the different student societies on campus to say, come and be part of the discussion. Let's hear what the people, how people did it in the past, and see what we can learn from that.
I just want to come to one of the other speakers on your program, and that is the photographer Peter Magubane. Can you share a little bit about what he will be sharing on the day and planning for the demonstration or the kind of presentation?
Peter will be speaking at 3 different events during the commemoration. The commemoration begins on June 15 with an opening of an exhibition curated primarily by Paul, Paul Weinberg is one of the key photographers that we've had in the country, and he's the head of the Cass Gallery at UCT. And he has put together what he is called 1976 360, which is an exhibition that will be opening for the whole month of June, but it will be opened officially on June 15. So what we then decided is that we need something else to attach to that, and we learned that Peter Mokbele is launching his latest book, and we just felt that what better place to actually launch it than at Moscow on the Hill, and so we will be having that book launch with Peter Mokbele on the 15th. As much as Peter is not the one that took that famous pic of Hector Peterson. However, his gallery, his portfolio of work speaks volume in terms of his involvement and where he was in '76, and the kinds of pics that he took within that year. And so you don't want to miss what he has got to say. So he will be speaking on the 15th. He will be speaking. He's got his own time slot in the program on the 16th, where we've said, can you give us 20 minutes of your time just to talk about your experience? So he will be having his own time slot in the program on the 16th as well. He will also be speaking at a graduation on the 15th at 2 o'clock, and I feel so honored that those students will be listening to this man share his story about how his life has been touched by all the pics that he has taken over the past 50 years or so.